thank you so much for joining me in another video. So as you can tell based on the title, today we are celebrating, we are commemorating the icon, the legend, Jane Birkin, and I thought what better way than to look at her style. So if you haven't heard the news, this from Vogue, Jane Birkin died on Sunday, July 16th at the age of 76, according to a report from Le Parisien. The news comes after Birkin was forced to cancel a handful of concerts in May due to health concerns, and less than 2 years after Birkin suffered a minor stroke. She is survived by 2 daughters. And this has actually been a video I have been meaning to make for quite some time. I know we all know the Birkin. That is something that we've all attached her name to, the Hermes Birkin. But I really want to talk about her style, how it was very emblematic of the 60s, the 70s, the music movement at the time. Take a look at some of her most iconic signature looks. The first item I want to talk about is not the Birkin bag. We're going to talk about her wicker bag, her basket bag. So Jane Birkin was actually very known in the 60s and the 70s, not for the Birkin. The Birkin wasn't even created. We'll get to the Birkin. This was a bag that she famously wore. It's a basket bag that she purchased in the 60s. This was a bag that really never left her side. You see her wearing this to very casual occasions at supermarkets, to very fancy red carpet occasions. She would accessorize it with a silk scarf, but this was such a signature for Jane Birkin's style. It is almost synonymous with her style in the 1960s and 70s. And I think it just really represents that casual, carefree approach to style. And a part of me like kind of low-key wants a bag like this. I don't think I need one, but I was looking on the Celine website and they have this more sort of bucket style with a lid type of bag. Again, so impractical for me right now. I'm currently on a handbag ban right now. So now let's talk about the fashion here. One of her most signature looks is this naked sheer sweater dress. So we've seen the naked dress each decade revamped in new iterations, but I think she really captured this naked dress in her own way. It embodies that subtle, understated sexiness. Apparently Jane Birkin didn't realize how sheer this dress was, but it was the paparazzi and the photographers that really captured the naked quality of this dress. I don't even know if I can show everything, so I'll probably blur out some of the imagery. Here she is wearing that basket bag. Another look I want to highlight is this very famous crochet gown that she wore backwards, and she actually put this clip on it. So this brooch clip to sort of fasten the dress together. Here she is embodying that easy breezy Parisian chic, lightweight, feminine flirtiness. Is she going to the beach or is she going to the red carpet? That is the Venn diagram. A girl going to the beach / she's going to the red carpet. Whatever that is, that was Jane Birkin in the 60s and 70s. On the crochet dress, here she is in her wedding dress, 1968. This is her marriage to Serge Gainsbourg. She's wearing this, again, semi-sheer white dress made with crochet lace. It's just a very playful twist on a very traditionally conservative dress. She kind of makes it less serious, but it's still beautiful at the same time. Another dress that we have to talk about here is this famous Paco Rabanne dress. This dress alone really represents that pivotal period, 60s, early 70s. We had a lot of other it girls during this period. François Hardy, Brigitte Bardot famously wear Paco Rabanne, this chainmail metallic disc style dress. And I just think also the length of it is very representative of her style, of the time. Ultra mini skirt, mini dress, mini shorts. This was very signature to her silhouette, but also was something that was very popular during this period. It just represents women having fun, feeling free, not tied to sort of the conservatism of previous decades. There was that sexual revolution going on at the time in the 60s, and her style reflected that. And I know we can look at some of these looks and think like, oh, is that really liberating or whatever? But for the time, you look at how people dress like the generation before her, and her provocative sense of style, her provocative sense of music was very controversial at the time. That's why she is one of the leading icons, which I think resonated with like a lot of Parisians at the time. On the Paco Rabanne here, another famous look. Here she is with Serge wearing this armor disco ball turtleneck. This sort of represents that very popular space age aesthetic that was going on at the time. And Jane Birkin was obviously a big fan. Paco Rabanne really captured that glamour, that shine, that shimmer that is so heavily associated with this time period. Now onto something a little bit more casual and relaxed here. I really just have to talk about Jane Birkin's high-waisted flared jeans. Maybe these are the kinds of jeans that I personally love the most, that I find most flattering on me. Flared style of jean, of course, very popular at the time. The way she wore it was almost in this casual, carefree, off-duty, effortless sort of way, be it with a little cute white shirt. A really easy way to feel put together. Of course, she wore denim, but she also wore white and the silhouette and like like other materials, but I feel it just looks really chic. You put like a little scarf or something. And just another quintessential casual basic for Jane Birkin were these very classic white shirts, be it button down or t-shirt. Yes, she did the crazy fun Paco turtlenecks, but she was also someone that wore very casual clothing, and maybe she'd pair it with a vest or like a really cute cardigan or accessorized it with a scarf and her basket bag. One key thing to take away with sort of these very casual, carefree items is you really don't have to overthink it. Sometimes it's just as simple as a white shirt, a button-down shirt, and it's more like how you style it, how you pair it with your items than the actual item itself. The next point I want to talk about is her hair and makeup and how they go together. She obviously had her signature bangs. They weren't crisp and perfect. It wasn't super structured either. It was sort of that Parisian woke up like this kind of aesthetic. That was her hair. It was never perfectly chopped or like symmetrical. It was just the way her hair naturally fell. But then paired with her makeup, sometimes she wouldn't wear a lot of makeup, but sometimes she did. But there was always this accentuation of her eyes, and the way the bangs frame her face really accentuate and make her eyes look really big. Gave her like these doll-like features, and this was just a very popular look. At the time, there was this movement, this music movement called the Yeah Yeah music movement. It was almost like this French response to the British rock and beat music that was going on during this era. I think Beatles. This was kind of like the Parisian response to that. And we see a lot of other musicians, Brigitte Bardot to Francois Hardy, have this similar look to like their hair and makeup. And we see Jane Birkin put her own spin on this. Serge Gainsbourg, her husband, wrote some of the greatest Yeah Yeah music era popular songs that a lot of these female musicians, and there were also male musicians, but it was largely a female-led movement. But the hair and makeup is very emblematic of that time, and it was also very popular in the 60s in general. You can tell there are aspects of her style, that very like youthful, flirty aesthetic was something that we saw in a lot of other Yeah Yeah musicians. Now let's talk about the Birkin. So I have my Birkin. This is the Birkin 30. I also have the Birkin 35. It's quite a big bag. In both of these bags, I've purchased vintage. This one is from the year 2000, and that one is from 2002. If you're not familiar with the Birkin story, apparently she met Jean-Louis Dumas, who was the chief executive of Hermes, in 1983 before she was about to take her seat on her Paris-London flight. Jane was struggling to place her bag in the overhead compartment. All of her items spilled out of the bag into the aisle, and Jane told Jean-Louis Dumas how difficult it was for her to find a leather bag to hold all of her personal items. Dumas offered to create a bag specifically for her. He drew this preliminary sketch on the airplane. We know the rest is history. And basically the design takes inspiration from their A.P.C hack. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this name in French. One thing about Jane Birkin was she wore this bag in like a very casual, carefree, again, I'm just like using the word casual, carefree all the time in this video. That was really how she dressed naturally. She took this bag and just made it really casual. She would accessorize it, put patches, and personalize it in her own way. And it was very similar to how she treated her basket bag. She would wear it, use it, enjoy it. She was very carefree with it. She wasn't precious with it. And I think the way she's worn the Birkin has inspired sort of this approach to where you allow the bag to be more worn in, and we're seeing this kind of become like a style where people are wearing worn in Birkin and Kelly bags, which is very interesting to me. But yeah, Jane Birkin is kind of the OG, treating bags like they're just casual, carefree objects. And the final look I want to talk about is Jane Birkin walking the runway for Hermes's Autumn Winter 2000. And here she is a little bit older, a little bit more mature. What she is wearing here on the runway is how she dressed in her later years. Going back to kind of these white shirts, oversized, comfortable pants. This is when Margiela was the creative director, and it's this relaxed sartorial style that she was actually known for in her later years. And what I also love about her here is how happy she looks, just smiling down the runway. And I think that's what I really like about her style, is it's not too intense, it's not too serious, it's not too formal, it's not too conservative. It just really embodies this carefree, liberated approach to dressing, while we associate her with like Hermes, this like very expensive, exclusive brand and I actually think her style is rooted in something that is a lot more casual and carefree. She has this very playful sense of style. Back in the 60s especially, it was very like flirty and had a lot of like subtle sexy undertones to it. But I think to get the look, you don't necessarily need to buy Hermes, you don't need to buy the Birkin. You could thrift a lot of these things. You could thrift a basket bag or like get one from Etsy. And of course you can also find a lot of inspiration from brands today. She recently did a collaboration with the brand A.P.C, which is very much this casual Parisian, very minimalist brand. And of course, if you want to go even higher, definitely Eddie Slimane at Celine. He's hugely inspired by Jane Birkin's style, especially from the 60s and 70s. And Jane Birkin actually attended his most recent shows. It's really sad seeing her not too long ago. So yes, that's my video. A bit of a sad one, but I think the best way to commemorate someone is to celebrate their life and celebrate what they did. Obviously, this is a fashion channel, so we're gonna celebrate her through her style, but obviously she was known for her music, for her movies, and her sense of fashion was definitely a reflection of that. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.